I have the honor and the pleasure of introducing to you our speaker for today, Betsy McAlister Groves, who is a 1975 graduate from the BU School of Social Work. Betsy is a licensed clinical social worker and founding director of the Child Witness to Violence Project at Boston Medical Center. The Child Witness to Violence Project provides developmentally informed and trauma-focused intervention to young children and their parents who are affected by violence and other traumas. Ms. Groves holds an academic appointment in pediatrics at the Boston University School of Medicine and also at Harvard University's Graduate School of Education. She has served for the past several years on the Massachusetts Governor's Council for Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault, and has published widely in this area. I give you Betsy McAlister Groves.
Thank you. Dean Steketee and Friedman, distinguished faculty, family, friends, and most of all, the graduating class of 2008. I am deeply honored to be your graduation speaker today. I have to tell you, though, that this invitation has led to a few nights of disrupted sleep. As I kept wondering, what do I have to say to you that isn't boring, patronizing, or downright irrelevant? So as any self-respecting and inquiring citizen does these days, I went online and Googled commencement speeches. Well, this was not a good move, I might add. The first speech I read was that of Desmond Tutu. Then I read Bill Gates, Toni Morrison, Stephen Colbert, Madeleine Albright, and at that point I stopped. They were all amazing and inspirational, and I began to think about ways that I could get out of this invitation. So I'm probably not up to that standard of commencement speech, but I do want to speak from my heart and my experience about the journey that you are embarking upon. First, I want to say congratulations to you, to each of you. You have made it. You have survived the classes, the papers, the field placements, the hours of working on process recordings. For those of you who don't know, this is a uniquely MSW approach to learning to be a clinician. You have learned about systems and advocacy. You have experienced moments of exhilaration as you have learned new things and tried new experiences. And you probably have also experienced moments of self-doubt and discomfort as you've been challenged to look at who you are, your life experience, your assumptions, your biases. Your families and friends have supported you emotionally and in many cases financially, and now you are gathered here today to celebrate. As you know from the introduction, I am a graduate of this school. In my years of working in the field, I've kept close contact with BU. I've supervised many BU students, including one this year, Bonnie Chambati. I've stayed connected with the schools by giving lectures here and through some of my mentors and classmates who are on the faculty, Trudy Zimmerman and Marianne Amodio, to name two. And most recently, I have the opportunity to work directly with the school again on a new partnership between the Child Witness to Violence Project at Boston Medical Center and the School of Social Work. This collaboration, initiated by Professors Ellen DeVoe and Ruth Paris, is funded by the Department of Defense to develop a supportive intervention for young children and families of returning soldiers from the Iraq and Afghanistan war fronts. It is very exciting, and it is a contribution to the field that we deeply believe in. The grants process was highly competitive. I think that there were only 4 of 215 submissions receiving awards, and it is a coup for this school to have gotten this award. I believe, in fact, that this school was the only school of social work to receive such a grant. As you might imagine, this invitation to speak to you today made me think back to my own graduation in 1975. I am proud to say, first of all, I do remember who the commencement speaker was, and I will challenge you 33 years from today to remember that, although I don't remember what he said. I found a picture of that day. The picture shows me and my husband together in a parking lot near here, with me wearing a very short yellow dress, and my husband with much hair, long hair, facial hair. So lots of leg, lots of hair. You can imagine what this picture looked like. We were symbols of our time, I suppose. I and a number of my classmates did not wear a robe for graduation. We were protesting something. I honestly don't remember what it is that we were protesting. And I actually, in preparation for this talk, I contacted a couple of my fellow graduate protesters to see if they could remember, and they didn't remember either. So I do remember that there was discussion about whether the administration would allow us to walk across the stage or not. And in the end, they required us to segregate ourselves and sit in a separate section. And we got our diplomas at the end of graduation. Now, this, of course, delighted us, because we managed to get a fair amount of attention for whatever it was that we were protesting at the time. I will add that I did not wear a graduation gown at my college graduation either. That was a protest about the choice of graduation speakers. So, among the many reasons that I appreciate this honor today is that I am actually been given another opportunity to wear a graduation gown, and I'm wearing it. It did occur to me, on a somewhat more serious note, that maybe I shouldn't wear the gown today, because there's plenty to protest about. And as I think about our era and our current social realities, there are eerie and perhaps discouraging similarities. In 1975, we had just extricated ourselves from a costly, controversial war that was in some ways the defining event of our generation. We had a president who presided over the worst years of the war with a failure of leadership, an absence of moral consciousness, a paranoia about the press and the public opinion, and an insensitivity to the obligations of the United States in the larger world. We had a gas crisis. Boston was reeling from the ugly racism evidenced with the local school desegregation and busing efforts. The feminist movement was strong and getting stronger and creating tensions on this campus and, of course, the larger society. BUSSW was a microcosm of the larger unrest in this country in 1975. There was a certain laissez-faire about most things academic. There was too much going on in the streets and in the community to think much about books and focus studies. They were a distraction. In fact, the year previous to my enrolling in this school, the students had managed to get rid of grades altogether. So our classes were ungraded. Either you passed or you failed. Discussions at this school about gender and race were intense and uncomfortable. There were sensitivity groups and encounter groups, and all things were processed, sometimes ad infinitum. I and a group of 7 other women took an independent study during our second year to develop a women's studies course. For the School of Social Work. We developed it first semester, and for the second semester, we worked with our faculty advisor, Jim Garland, to shepherd it through the various committees that needed to approve its adoption, an important lesson for us in the art and politics of negotiating change. And then we graduated with the appropriate controversy about wearing graduation robes. So where are we today? And what is the world that you are stepping into with your MSW? As I said before, there are some similarities and perhaps a sense of the more things change, the more they stay the same. But actually, I don't think that's fair or completely accurate. I think we are in a different place, for example, on issues of race and gender. I need say no more about that than to point to the candidacies of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. We live in a much more multicultural society, and we have a sense of the global community that was not so evident when I graduated. And in the words of Barbara Kingsolver, the wisdom of each generation is necessarily new. So you bring your own wisdom and your experience and your hope to this day and celebration. I want to speak briefly about what it has meant to me to be a social worker, to have an MSW degree, and what of my experience I would want to pass on to you, the class of 2008. First, I have never regretted my choice to get this degree. I think it is a great degree, and the basic perspectives that we are taught in social work schools equip us well, and you heard those perspectives from the student speakers. Social work is rooted in context and community. We learn from our first courses about understanding the ecologies of individuals and families. We are taught to look at the person in the environment. As I have worked in medical and psychiatric settings and with courts, judges, and many other disciplines, I have an appreciation for, and I am proud of the way that social workers approach problems, be they individual or collective. Social workers see the bigger picture. They're trained that way. They don't just see a symptom or a behavior. And because of this perspective, we arrive at interventions that take into account the broader picture, that look at strengths in families or environments or communities, that include the role of advocacy and social change to improve the environments of the people with whom we work. I've also appreciated the flexibility of this degree. You can do so many things with an MSW. I have worked for as little as 6 hours a week and for as much as full-time, or actually more than full-time. I've worked in community, grassroots agencies, and large academic institutions. I've had a private practice. At various points of my MSW career, I have coached a girls' volleyball team, staffed a teen drop-in center, run groups for adolescent sex offenders, sat with physicians as they provided medical care to teach them about effective interviewing skills, worked with judges to design child care space in courthouses, lobbied for legislative change on Beacon Hill, and had breakfast with Mr. Rogers to talk about the impact of community violence on children. Now, what kind of variety is that for one degree? Never a dull moment. The ways you can use your MSW degree are endless. And if you tire of one thing or feel that you are burned out, you can always find something else to do. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, I have valued the social justice perspective of social work, a core value that I think distinguishes us from many of our other colleagues in mental health or psychology. The roots of our profession are steeped in the keen awareness of the inequities of society, and of the belief that to whom knowledge and opportunity are given, much is required. Or in the words of Jane Addams, one of my personal heroines in this field, the good we secure for ourselves is precarious and uncertain until it is secured for all of us and incorporated into our common life. That, I think, is both the foundation and the challenge of our profession, to work always to address the inequities and the injustices in our society. So, commencement, defined by my online Encarta dictionary as the beginning of something. I like this definition. It's simple, yet a bit ambiguous. The beginning of something. It is enticing, the beginning, new, exciting, anticipatory, energizing, and it is a bit unsettling, the beginning of something, uncertain, unclear, a bit scary perhaps, unknown. In closing, I want to reassure you and challenge you, don't be afraid of the something or the unknown. Open yourselves to new experiences. Learn from your clients, your colleagues, and from the many opportunities, some small and some large, that will come your way. And remember your roots. They will keep you strong and true and centered. Thank you.